Good afternoon, everyone. There's a convergence happening in your life right now where multiple streams of possibility are beginning to flow in the same direction. And what makes this moment significant isn't just that opportunities are appearing, it's that your internal state, your readiness, your capacity to recognize and seize what's being offered, all of that has been quietly developing in ways you might not have fully appreciated until you look back and see how far you've actually come. Something is building that could fundamentally transform your financial reality. This isn't about lottery tickets or sudden windfalls that require no effort. This is about the intersection of preparation and opportunity, about skills you've been developing, finally finding their market, about ideas you've been nurturing, finally reaching their moment of viability, about connections you've been building, finally opening doors you couldn't access before. And all of these elements, these pieces you've been putting in place, sometimes without even realizing you were building towards something. They're starting to align in ways that create exponential possibility rather than linear growth. Some of you might already be sensing this as a shift in how opportunities are appearing more frequently with better timing from unexpected sources. Almost like the universe is finally saying, okay, you're ready. Here's what you've been preparing for, even though you might not feel entirely ready. Might still be questioning whether you have what it takes. Might still be managing doubt about your abilities or worthiness or right to occupy space at this level. There is a sense that wealth isn't just coming to you randomly. It's responding to something you've become, to an internal shift in how you see yourself and what you believe is possible, to a change in your relationship with value and exchange and what you're willing to receive, to growth that's been happening beneath the surface while externally things might have looked stagnant or slow or even like you were moving backward. Um, because wealth accumulation rarely happens the way we imagine it will. We think it should be steady and predictable and obviously building, but often it's more like tectonic plates shifting, nothing, nothing, nothing for long periods, and then sudden dramatic movement. And you might be approaching one of those moments of sudden movement where everything you've been doing, learning, becoming suddenly translates into material results that feel disproportionate to the effort you put in recently, but entirely proportionate to the cumulative effort you've been investing all along. This reflection invites you to consider if financial abundance arrived suddenly and dramatically, what beliefs about yourself would you need to update to receive it without self sabotage? It's possible there's a specific opportunity approaching that could be a turning point, a business proposition, an investment opportunity, a career move, a creative project that finds unexpected commercial success. And what's interesting is that this opportunity might come through communication, through a message or call from someone whose timing seems almost uncanny, someone reaching out at exactly the moment when you're ready to hear what they have to offer, even though they couldn't have known that. And when that communication arrives, when you see that name or number or message notification, pay attention to your immediate reaction because your nervous system will know before your conscious mind catches up whether this is significant, whether this is one of those moments where a single conversation could redirect your entire trajectory, where saying yes to something you'd normally decline could open pathways you didn't know existed. There's also something here about multiple income streams. Um, about wealth building, not from a single source, but from several that compound and reinforce each other. And you might be in the process of creating that kind of diversified abundance without having consciously planned it that way. Just making choices that feel right, following interests that seem important even when they don't obviously connect to immediate financial gain, building skills that seem tangential to your main focus, and all of that, all of those seemingly unrelated pursuits, they might be about to reveal themselves as pieces of a larger strategy your unconscious wisdom has been orchestrating. It can seem as if you've been planting seeds in different gardens and they're all approaching harvest simultaneously, and the abundance that creates, the compound effect of multiple things bearing fruit at once. That's how people often make quantum leaps in wealth rather than incremental gains. Not because one thing goes exponentially well, but because 5 or 7 or 10 things all start producing at the same time. Um, some of you might be feeling resistance to believing this is possible for you, might be thinking multimillionaire sounds ridiculous. That doesn't happen to people like me. And I understand that skepticism. I understand the protection in not hoping for too much. But what if your definition of people like me is based on who you were rather than who you're becoming? What if the limitations you believe in are just outdated stories rather than actual constraints on what's possible? Because wealth isn't actually about being special or chosen or lucky. It's about positioning. It's about preparation, meeting opportunity. It's about being in the right place with the right skills at the right time with the right mindset to recognize and capitalize on what's available. And you might be approaching that convergence of factors without fully recognizing it yet. This reflection invites you to consider what would need to be true about you for multimillionaire level wealth to make sense, and are those things already becoming true? Um, there's something about timing that feels important here. Not that there's a specific date circled on some cosmic calendar, but that certain opportunities have windows. Certain market conditions create possibility that won't exist indefinitely. Certain connections are productive at specific moments and less so at others. And you might be in one of those window periods right now, where the conditions that make dramatic financial growth possible are temporarily aligned, where what you have to offer matches what the market needs, where your particular combination of skills and experiences and perspectives is suddenly valuable in ways it wasn't before. And recognizing those windows, being willing to move when they're open rather than waiting for perfect conditions or complete certainty. That's often what separates people who build significant wealth from people who stay comfortable but never break through to another level, because comfort is the enemy of breakthrough. Safety is the enemy of transformation. And if you're waiting until pursuing wealth feels completely safe and guaranteed, you'll miss every window that actually matters. It may feel as though you're being asked to take risks you're not entirely comfortable with, to invest resources you're not sure you can afford to lose, to commit to ventures that aren't guaranteed to succeed, to trust yourself in ways that feel presumptuous or arrogant. And that discomfort, that edge of your capacity feeling, that's actually a sign you're in the right territory, because growth doesn't happen in comfort zones. Wealth doesn't accumulate through safe choices. Transformation requires operating at your edge in the space where you're not entirely sure you can do what you're attempting, but you're willing to try anyway. And maybe part of what needs to shift is your relationship with risk itself, recognizing that staying where you are, doing what you've been doing, playing it safe, that has its own risks. The risk of regret, the risk of watching opportunities pass, the risk of arriving at the end of your life wondering what could have been if you'd been braver. And sometimes those risks are actually bigger and more devastating than the risk of trying something ambitious and failing. Some of you might receive communication from someone specific who's been on your mind, someone from your past, someone you've been wanting to hear from, someone whose appearance in your life always seems to correlate with significant shifts. And when they reach out, when that message or call comes, it might not immediately look like a financial opportunity. It might look like reconnection, like catching up, like casual conversation. But beneath that surface, there might be an opportunity embedded that only becomes clear if you're paying attention, if you're curious rather than dismissive, if you're open to where the conversation might lead rather than keeping it safely confined to pleasantries, because opportunities often don't announce themselves clearly. They show up disguised as other things, as requests for help, as casual mentions of problems someone's trying to solve, as offhand comments about projects or ventures or needs. And if you're not listening for possibility, if you're not attuned to where your skills or resources or network might create value, you'll miss the opening entirely. This reflection invites you to consider: when was the last time you recognized an opportunity that wasn't obviously labeled as one, and what made you see it? There's also something here about value and how you assess your own, about whether you're pricing yourself based on what you think people will pay or based on the actual transformation you create, about whether you're undercharging because you're still operating from scarcity or insecurity or outdated beliefs about what you're worth. And maybe part of what needs to shift for wealth to actually accumulate is you getting realistic about your value, about what you bring, about what people are actually willing to exchange for access to your skills or knowledge or network or creativity. It can seem as if you've been leaving money on the table, not intentionally, but through undervaluing yourself, through not recognizing that what comes easily to you is actually rare and valuable, through thinking everyone can do what you do when the reality is they can't, and correcting that misperception, getting accurate about your value. That alone could transform your financial reality without you having to work any harder, just charging appropriately for what you're already providing. Some of you might also need to address your relationship with wealth itself, the stories you inherited about money, the beliefs about rich people, the ways you've made wealth mean something about character or morality or spirituality. Because if you unconsciously believe that wealthy people are corrupt, or that money is the root of evil, or that you can't be rich and still be good, those beliefs will sabotage every opportunity that comes your way, will make you reject or undermine or fail to capitalize on possibilities that could actually transform your financial reality. Because your unconscious mind is powerful. And if it's protecting you from becoming something you've decided is bad, It will find ways to ensure you don't succeed at building wealth even when opportunities are abundant. So maybe part of the work right now is examining and updating your beliefs about money, about what it means, about what having it would say about you, about whether you can be wealthy and still be yourself. Still care about the things you care about. Still live according to your values. It may feel as though there's a particular person who could be instrumental in your financial breakthrough, someone who has access to resources or networks or opportunities you don't currently have, someone whose endorsement or partnership or support could accelerate your trajectory dramatically. And that person, that catalyst, they might be about to make contact, might be preparing to reach out, might be in the process of recognizing that what you have to offer is exactly what they've been looking for. And when that contact comes, when that opportunity presents itself through relationship, you'll need to be ready, ready to articulate your value clearly, ready to negotiate from a place of confidence rather than desperation, ready to recognize when something is genuinely good for you versus just flattering or exciting in ways that cloud your judgment. Because not every opportunity that looks big is actually aligned with your highest good. And discernment matters as much as openness. This reflection invites you to consider, how would you know the difference between an opportunity that serves your growth and one that just feeds your ego or fear of missing out? There's something about preparation that matters here too, because wealth, when it arrives, requires management, requires systems, requires sophistication about finances that you might not have needed when money was scarce. And maybe part of what these weeks are about is getting educated, getting clear on how wealth actually works, how it's preserved and grown and leveraged, how it's protected from the various forces that could diminish it, how it's deployed in ways that create more abundance rather than just consumed. It can seem as if you're being invited to think bigger than you've thought before, to imagine operating at a scale you haven't operated at, to see yourself as someone who manages significant resources rather than someone who just earns and spends. And that identity shift, that internal reorganization around who you are financially, that's as important as any external opportunity. Because if your identity doesn't match the wealth you're building, you'll find ways to return to the financial level that feels familiar and safe. Some of you might experience this wealth building through creative or entrepreneurial channels rather than traditional employment, through building something that's yours, through creating value that can scale beyond your direct effort, through developing intellectual property or systems or brands that generate revenue independently of your time. And if that's your path, if you're being called to build rather than just earn, then the communication that's coming might be from a potential partner or investor or mentor or customer who helps you see the commercial potential in what you've been creating. Because sometimes we're too close to our own work to see its value. We're creating things we love or that solve problems we understand, and we don't realize that what seems obvious or simple to us is actually novel and valuable to others. And it takes someone from outside, someone with fresh eyes and different perspective, to show us what we've actually built, to help us understand the market potential we've been sitting on without recognizing it. It may feel as though you're standing at a threshold Like you can sense that something significant is about to shift, but you can't quite see what form it will take. Like the energy around you feels charged and expectant, but you don't know exactly what you're waiting for. And that's the nature of these moments. They announce themselves through feeling before they manifest, through form, through intuition before evidence, through sensing before seeing. So if you're feeling that charge, that expectancy, that sense of something building, trust it, not in a way that makes you passive or just waiting for something to happen to you, but in a way that keeps you alert and ready to recognize and act when the opportunity presents itself. When the message arrives, when the call comes, when the door opens that you've been unconsciously preparing to walk through. And here's what you need to remember. Multimillionaire level wealth isn't just about the money itself. It's about what the money represents. Freedom, choice, the ability to create and contribute without constantly worrying about survival, the capacity to support causes and people you care about, the resources to pursue ventures that matter to you regardless of their immediate profitability. And if that's what wealth would mean for you, if you'd use it in service of good things, then wanting it isn't greedy or shallow or materialistic. It's practical, it's strategic. It's about acquiring the tools that allow you to do what you're here to do at the scale you're meant to do it. So stay open, stay ready, stay alert to communication that might be carrying opportunity even when it's disguised as something else. And trust that you're more prepared for financial breakthrough than you probably give yourself credit for. That the wealth you're sensing is possible. It's not fantasy, it's potential. And potential becomes reality through recognition and action, through seeing the opening and being brave enough to walk through it. You're ready for this. Even if you don't feel ready, even if doubt is loud and certainty is quiet, you're ready. And what's coming, it's going to prove that to you. This reflection invites you to consider, when wealth arrives, who will you become with it? And is that person someone you'd be proud to be?